Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Give it a couple seconds. Let somebody arrive and make sure that everything's good here. I think we're good. I think we're good. I think we're good. And 17 seconds is good enough. Okay. What's up, guys? Professor Bill, Comic Book University. So apparently Stan Lee has died. We all knew this. But they're not through with him yet. This is like a weekend at Bernie's at this point, man. They're just going to parade his corpse around forever. The thing that kills me is, like, who's actually going to get the money, right? I used to report on this stuff a little bit, and I actually got frustrated with doing it because it was actually heartbreaking. Like, I refused to go and see him after a certain point because I remember, like, I'd gotten his autograph. I got my picture with him. It's actually right up here on the wall. I'd got my picture with him and everything. And I'm just like, this is cool. Stan Lee is cool. He was a very nice person. But, you know, there's people yelling in the background, like harsh yelling. And I don't, I'm the coolest, meekest person in the world until you yell at me. That's when, or God forbid, yell at my wife, which also happened. That, whew, they were a-holes. Let's just put it that. They were straight up a-holes. And I had to practically put some boots to heads. But it is what it is. It's funny. You stand up to a bully, you know right away if he's a bully or not, right? Unfortunately, if he's not a bully, you might wind up getting punched in the cheeser. But anyway, yeah, I knew that they were jerks to begin with. After that, talking to a bunch of people who were there, who were going up, at Gotham Central, they my comic book shop, they had some people who would go up and try and get a bunch of things signed really quick. Nobody got the signed in blood. So you remember that? They were actually signing his name in his own blood. That maybe that was a false thing. I've never seen it taken away. All I'm saying is that is absolute pure insanity. Also, I want to apologize for the regular attire. I was just in a meeting. I've got a little bit of time before I have to go back to another one, and then it's off to guitar lessons and today's karate for the kids and jiu-jitsu for me later on. So got a little bit of time to do this. Anyway, it is insanity to me that they can't just let this poor guy be at rest, right? I got a couple Stan Lee figures. I got this guy. Oh, you know what? I got two right here. I got the main Marvel Legends one, but I've got this thing with like actual clothing, and I've got the only pop I own. The only pop that I own. And I have no interest in getting any more. But I wanted a Stan Lee pop. It's not just disappointing to me that they're doing this. Here's the thing. It's a 20-year, hey, what's up, Rich? It's a 20-year contract that they own his image now, and the MCU, that Marvel as a whole. So whether it's in the comic books, whether it's in the movies, whether it's in a flyer magazine, digitally, right? Anywhere they want to put his image right now, they are allowed to put his image for 20 full years. So for right now, that's not too much. I mean, are they going to digitally render someone else's face like they did with Mark Hamill to be Luke Skywalker in the Mandalorian series? Are they going to do that with them? I wouldn't necessarily put it past them, but probably not. Probably not. But it's 20 years. 20 years. This means that they could wind up making it so amazing. You guys have heard of those deep fakes, right? I don't know if they still do. I'm sure they still do. Whatever. They were doing stuff with porn with it for a while. But the big thing that was freaking out people in the news media was that they actually had a very, very realistic, almost perfect rendering of Barack Obama's face back when he was the president. That's how long ago this has been going on. And him talking and giving a speech, they rendered his voice differently. And they said that they could actually have a news image of him talking about, oh, we're going to bomb so-and-so and so. So you will never know what's real and what's fake. And the general populace has no chance of figuring that stuff out. If that's the kind of fear that they had, and we could still very well have, 20 years, a lot can change in 20 years. Guys, 5 years ago, could you imagine people telling you what you can and can't say? 5 years ago, could you imagine news media saying that we have to censor people's free speech? 5 years ago, and I'm not trying to make this political, but I'm trying to give you some kind of an idea. 5 years ago, could you imagine half the things that existed today? Could you imagine just over 2 years ago, a pandemic where everybody has to stay home, where they're chastising, and I don't want to turn this into something that it's not, but people are still screaming and trying to cancel people if you don't get the vaccination. I'm double vaxxed. I'm all good. And you know why? Because at the time they were saying, you get the vax, it dies within you. I remember Rachel Maddow and lots of other people saying it too. Oh, and then it's done. It's done. It's done. All right. It's done. And then it dies in you. So it doesn't go anyplace else. Could you imagine the news media and the presidents for multiple presidents, both sides, saying this and that and the other thing and all these different things, and we just believe it, and we're screamed at if we don't do it. You can't get a job unless you get the double vax. And yet, and again, I'm not trying to make this political, just think about this. 5 years ago, could you imagine that this would have happened? Can you imagine? You can't get a job someplace unless you get this vaccination, which is not going to prevent the spread, all right, which is not going to prevent anything. It might make it a little bit easier on you if you're old or overweight. And the more overweight, the worse. What's up, Dale? John, how you doing, man? So that's just 5 years. 20 years ago, when I was 26 years old, I had just finished working in the engineering industry. At that point, I was only doing some technical work and some consulting. I wasn't even really writing anybody's technical manual. Nowadays, I write technical manuals. I was on one of the original teams that created wireless internet, which is used in everybody's cell phone. And then by the end of 2001, by the end of 2003, we had perfected the miniaturization of GPS. 20 years ago, that's when phones started getting a whole lot bigger, right? We kept on trying to shrink the phones, flip phones, stuff like that. All these different things, trying to make them smaller. But once we made wireless internet in here, BlackBerry suddenly wasn't good enough. The smartphones, Galaxy eventually came up, the iPhone, right? All these different things. Think about what can happen in 20 years. Minds can change. Minds can be changed. Things that are not cool suddenly become cool. Def Rocker, you're from Jersey too? What's up, bro? All these different, so many things can change. So think about the level of change that can happen inside of 20 years, if not just 5. Somebody owns Stan Lee's likeness. Specifically, it is Genius Brands International, which I do recall, but more importantly, POW Entertainment. They signed a 20-year deal with Marvel, all of Marvel, right? So owned by Disney, Marvel, to do this stuff. Guy's been dead for 4 years. Can you believe it? The things that can change in 4 years. Where am I? There I am. This poor guy. It's like Weekend at Bernie's. Dragging this poor guy's corpse, essentially, all over the place. Hey, Master Jarl, what's going on, man? Oh, I see you still, Master Jarl, here. Guys, come and hang out with us in the Discord once in a while. Links are below. It breaks my heart that this happens. What's even worse is that I don't think that his daughter is getting anything. I know. Anybody who's been following the stories knows that his daughter, Joan, is not exactly a good person. She's a very, very demanding deadbeat, living off of, daddy's income long after she should have been off on her own, doing her own thing, right? Whatever. That's he left his estate to his, he didn't leave his, I think he died with no will or not much of a will, nothing anywhere close to being up to date. So it automatically went, according to, San Francisco, California, American law, The estate went completely to his daughter. But just like, when I was working in engineering, if you have intellectual property that someone else bought, anything like that, that's still owned by whatever, if that's what the contract indicates. Now, the only contract that I know that lasts forever is a marriage contract. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that I never recommend any man to do. Mind you, I'm already married. It is what it is. And she don't watch this stuff anyway. So anyway, she's out there measuring something right now, which means I'm going to have to build something soon. Anyway, they, I don't know who's getting this money specifically. I don't know if his daughter is getting this money. His wife died before Stan Lee did. His daughter is still running around all over, doing whatever she's doing, spending more than her means, owing a lot of money because she buys things through credit and she doesn't have her stuff paid anymore. And Stan Lee's pretty much been getting the same amount of money since 1990. Sorry, my mistake. 1999. In 1999, Stan Lee left Marvel. He left Marvel. He was done. And he went off to do his own thing. But because they still wanted to use his likeness, Marvel Comics specifically, but Marvel in general, they made him the chairman emeritus, which means emeritus is something that professors usually get, right? Like I used to teach in Saudi Arabian, the Saudi Arabian University, Saudi Electronic University. It is called, still exists. And I was a professor there. I don't know that I necessarily get an emeritus, the title professor, but I've been using it regardless, right? I was a university professor. My opinion, I get to keep that. Usually it's an emeritus thing that you can still be called professor. Jordan Peterson is not a professor anymore. It's still okay to call him Professor Peterson because he did the job. He had the title. You keep it. When you're a former president, you're still called Mr. President, right? So he had the chairman because he was the chairman for a while, didn't do anything. All the conversations I've had with Mr. Jim Shooter, right? I've talked to you about, I've relayed those things. He kept the title chairman, even though he wasn't really the chairman anymore. But they kept that for a long time, and he'd been getting paid $1 million every year since. Now, other work that he's done to make him money, working with POW Entertainment, working with the thing that he even talked bad about, Stan Lee Entertainment, right? And they're going around trying to sue Marvel and try and get all the property rights back. It's like you never had them in the first place. So I even misspoke by saying property rights back. You never had them. You're never going to have them. All these people trying to get, like, it's insanity. It's pure insanity. Does Marvel even deserve the rights to these things? They had to get Jack Kirby to lie so that Joe Simon couldn't get things. Listen, I love these characters and I'm here for the characters, right? But I could care less if Marvel fails. I can care less if the MCU fails. I can care less if all of this stuff fails. Because at the end of the day, that just means that it's going to be open license, right? And then we could all make Captain America comic books for free. Rock on, right? It doesn't have to be just fan fiction. Everything's fan fiction at that point. Even if Marvel continues to make the stuff, they'd still be considered fan fiction. But they own the license to these things. That's why they can do whatever they want to do and gatekeep and all that stuff, right? Because they own these characters. Well, now Marvel owns the character, the image of Stan Lee. I don't know who's getting this money. I don't know anything that's going on except what they're putting forward as a press release. And let me tell you now why they're doing this press release. Damage reduction. They own the license for 20 years. They just got the license back for Conan, right? That's the reason why, just to give you an idea of how these licenses work. I have a degree in business, so I know this stuff. They never called that big octopus thing in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. They never called that thing Shumagorath, even though every single one of us who are longtime comic book fans know that's Shumagorath. That's the thing that Brian Michael Bendis had in New Avengers, sliming down the street and doing things, which never should have happened. Shows that Brian Michael Bendis knows absolutely nothing. Roy Thomas should smack that guy right in the head, right? If Shumagorath was ever able to enter the Earth dimension, it would be like one of the greater elder ones entering our dimension. It would never happen. It couldn't happen. If it did, it would be the end of our universe. So no thanks. He can't take there is no physical form. It would be an avatar at best, right? But that's the difference between fans and people who just want to, it'd be cool as having a one-eyed octopus thing going down the street and people chopping off its, like Iron Fist, chopping off his limbs and his tentacles and stuff like that. Sure, bud. Sure. So they couldn't call it Shumagorath, even in the credits. I think they gave it the name Gargantos, right? There's a game that I play once in a while because it's can't believe that just happened. It's a puzzle game, and I like puzzle game. Right down here, Marvel Puzzle Quest, right there. You can see my survival stuff and whatever. Anyway, they called him Gargantos. Now in the comic books, they can still call him Shumagorath, but not anywhere else in media. Why? It's actually surprisingly simple. Whenever Marvel back in the day would license a property, so they would buy the license of a property. Conan was the first big one. It might have been the first one, but it was without a doubt the first big one. It was because of Conan that they got Star Wars and all these other ones also, right? But it was Conan, the first really big one. That was Roy Thomas that cinched that deal. Boom, it is what it is. When they the people who actually own the properties, whatever it is, right? Because Conan is in public, what the hell is it called? Public, I just said it before. It's in the public purview. Anybody can make a Conan book, and you can call him Conan and all that stuff. But on the cover, you're not allowed to call him Conan. You may not it is illegal to call a book Conan. But they've got a book, I think it's still in publication right now from a different company called The Cimmerian, because Cimmerian is not copywritten the same way. Conan is, however, the name. So that's why Marvel is allowed to call a book Conan, because they repurchased the rights to Conan. Now, Marvel created Red Sonja-ish. I know Robert E. Howard made her, but she was actually the only thing that's the same is the red hair. She used a sword and a pistol, and she was a Russian. I think she was actually a Kazakh specifically in Russia. And she was going around doing all these things almost like oh man, what's going all over the place now? I can't remember some of these people's names. The one pilgrim guy, Solomon Kane, almost exactly like Solomon Kane, right? So they can't use Red Sonja right now, but they can use Conan. They can actually have his name on the front. When they made Shumagorath, that was from the very beginning. They created Shumagorath. That automatically went under the license for the Robert E. Howard Foundation, whatever the hell it's called. So that now they are the ones who can use the term Shumagorath, unless they license it to you. They didn't create it. Marvel created it. More specifically, Roy Thomas created it, but it automatically went to them. So when Marvel is licensing or is using the license, they're allowed to use the name Shumagorath, but only for the comics, because they only bought it for the comics. Now, if they bought the movie rights also, one, they would be expected to make a movie every couple of years. I think every 5 years. If they don't make a movie every 5 years, well, then the property rights would automatically revert back over without even a monetary stream. It would automatically revert over. That's the reason why Disney was able to get the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. Those are the two big ones. But it's also the reason why they were able to get Ghost Rider, Blade, and Daredevil, because those rights disappeared also. So there's movie rights. The licensing rights are all over the place. They're for movies. They're for this, that, whatever. Magazines count as comic books, right? So you can only use those rights. That's the reason why they had to call it Gargantos, or no name at all, as opposed to Shumagorath. Hey, perfectly okay with me. We got the gist, right? So exact same thing with Stan Lee's images, except they chose from Marvel to buy them, not just Marvel Comics, not just the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not just Marvel Digital or Marvel Entertainment with the rides and things like that. Marvel itself bought the license, which means the likeness, which means they bought multiple licenses, or they bought it as a package deal. Maybe it's like a Costco, maybe they got a Costco, I don't know. But anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? They were able to purchase the whole entire thing. That's why they're able to use his likeness. Oh, including in one of these days, I'll actually get around to talking about this. The new RPG, which they just put together. This is actually the play test version. The real version will be available in August. But that's the thing. They're able to use this all over the place. So what is to stop them from using a digital rendering? Nothing, except people being outraged. Hey, listen, I'm a little outraged that the last time that we saw Stan Lee make an actual real cameo in a movie was in the Captain Marvel film. You know what I'm saying? But all that being what it is, I'm seeing, sorry, let me check the time real quick. Okay, I still got like 7 minutes. All that being what it is, it would be nice to see Stan Lee again, but the actual Stan Lee. Now, will it be okay to see him digitally rendered like The Rock was at the end of Scorpion King? I don't know. Or was that The Mummy? Anyway, whatever it was. I think it was at the end of The Mummy. Yeah, the end of Mummy Part 2. And then in the Scorpion King, which was separate, right? So, yeah, I don't, would it be okay? I don't know. That's the reason why they're putting this out there, so that the magazines and us YouTube guys can, and on Reddit and other forums, we can all start, either complimenting it or complaining about it. We're weighing the pros and cons, letting the outrage, will the outrage actually bowl over, or will we suddenly be accepting of it? That's what they're actually doing. So I'm not here to, badmouth anybody. Like, it is what it is. It is what it is. The biggest question I have is Joan actually getting the money for that? Or is she getting residuals? Not all, she'll never get all the money for it. There are people employed, right? But will she get some of the residuals for that? That's the only question I have. And so far, that hasn't been released. Red Sonja comic show license and Dynamite. You are correct. Surprised they have not turned Conan into a woman yet. Give it time, William. Give it time. Public domain. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that. Into the murkiness. Anyway. Okay. So that's going to be it. I'm going to, make him an AI for Spidey instead of Friday. Dell, I think you might actually be onto something. That would actually be pretty cool. That would be kind of cool. Honestly, even if there's somebody who's just scrolling through the radio or nowadays the TV and actually see something, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, look, it's Stanley real quick. Just change the channel really quick. Just something, just a little thing, because you know what? It's one of those things they're hoping that just a quick little image or his face on a billboard in a movie as a hero is flying by or doing something, right? The toys on the shelf, whatever, will make us have a good feeling about this incredible human being who never wanted to injure anybody, who never wanted to hurt anybody's feelings, right? We're all they're kind of hoping that his image is going to make us have a good feeling, which will help to elevate our emotions about a particular movie. Because let's face it, their movies, their TV programs, a lot of stuff isn't looking very good. Should we talk about She-Hulk for about a minute? It sounds, it's such a good idea to do a She-Hulk TV series, right? It doesn't have to be 6 episodes. You could make this thing go on forever. It could be like a funny version of Ally McBeal. That's right, I went there. There have been plenty of fun law. It could be like a spoof on Law and Order or something like that, right? It could be. Why not? The problem is that is the absolute worst AI I have ever seen in my life. The CGI. That is the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life. Guys, I'm sorry. I remember going to the movie theater in, what was it, 1990? 1990, whatever the hell year it was that I went and I saw Jurassic Park. That wasn't claymation. That was my oldest son right now, because I've done a lot of stop motion animation with my sons and playing around and whatnot, and they're trying to get used to it. I haven't done it in a while, but we've done it. They can right away spot claymation, stop motion, all that stuff, right? They can spot that stuff in a heartbeat. This isn't like the original Star Wars movie in 1970, right? Where it's like, oh, here's an empty, just a lightsaber hilt, and I'm going to stand stock still and release my grip a little bit. Somebody's going to walk in and take the lightsaber hilt and put a, lightsaber with the actual stick there, the glowing part there, in my hand. I'm going to grip it, try not to breathe, try not to move, and action. Now I've just ignited my lightsaber. This isn't back then. This isn't 1970. And I swear, like, dude, the new Jurassic Park movies coming out, are they using different effects than they used back with the original Jurassic Park? I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe the rendering is a higher pixelation. It's the exact same thing. And for me to look at She-Hulk's face in this freaking thing, and I'm just like, this doesn't look good at all. This looks like blurry makeup. This looks like, are there any, I don't think there are any female Flashes. Oh, there's one of Alan West? Anyway, Wally West, one of Wally West's daughters, right? Or one of his kids is a girl. If she were running and just put on the makeup really quick without a mirror, that's what it looks like horrible CGI. It's like they just don't care anymore. So many of these movies and TV shows, they're just not good anymore, right? Like our magnum opus was Endgame. I don't think that Black Panther 2 is going to be any good at this point. I really just don't. But you know what? It is what it is. I mean, they're not even trying to do halfway decent CGI. This is not even halfway decent. That's heartbreaking. She can palm a bowling ball. I can palm a basketball. Hey, J-Man, what's going on? Muscular woman would have been better. Yeah, there are muscular women. Why not Charlotte Flair? Could that have worked from WWE? That might have worked, right? There are big, strong women out there who could play the role, and then just make her look big. Look, if they can make people who are not midgets look like hobbits, right? That would work. By the way, there's going to be some people who are pissed off that I said midgets. Midgets call themselves midgets, so shut up. Stop with it. See what I'm saying from the beginning of this video? People try to tell you what you can and can't say. There are people out there who are not. Nobody wants to be called a little person. They hate that. This is like white people saying, use the word Latinx from now on. Meanwhile, the Latino people are like, no. Yeah, and they don't want to be called dwarves. They're not out there with sword and sorcery and all that stuff. Come on. Anyway, they don't, what do you call it? Like, if you can make people look like hobbits, you can make a big woman look bigger. It's not that, it can't be that hard. I'm guessing, but I'm guessing based on an educated guess. All right, guys, I actually have to go right now. Defar, do you think MCU story is getting soft and pandering to an agenda? You know, I love Charlotte too. Let me get to King of Goldfish in a moment. Yes, I do, unfortunately. But that's the thing. You know, think about it. All the money they made, all the billions of dollars that they have made, right? Doing these MCU movies. Black Panther, $1 billion. Endgame and Infinity War, $1 billion. Avengers, I think that reached $1 billion. These were like the biggest movies in the world. They still are some of the biggest movies in the world. Avatar just, got better. Not The Last Airbender, the blue people one, right? Like billions of dollars in these kinds of movies that they're making. People are paying to see these incredible movies, and yet the problem is Kevin Feige and all these other people don't walk amongst us. They don't walk amongst us. They're not walking down the street, hanging out with regular people, paying for a movie ticket. When they see these movies in the movie theater, it's because there's a red carpet event and they're going to go see it. They're not going to the local Cineplex or AMC or whatever the hell is out there nowadays in the States. They're not out there, right? So they don't know what we're thinking, what we're doing. They don't know any of that stuff. They don't know anything. They're completely out of touch entirely. So when you have Martin Scorsese saying, it's just a big adventure park. That guy's been, look, as much as we love his one-trick pony mafia movies, right? As much as we love his mafia movies, go back and sit in your freaking corner. You got one Oscar nod, and that's it. You're really not that good. Martin Scorsese, are we really going to sit here and say this guy's the most amazing freaking guy in the world? Stephen King has made more money in his movies than Martin Scorsese. I don't want to hear it. Go back to doing that fish movie with Will Smith. You know what I'm saying? Like, go in your own corner. Jodie Foster. When's the last time Jodie Foster's been in a movie? Anybody? Come on. Anybody in the chat. When's the last time this guy, Jodie Foster's been in a movie? But she wants to sit there and say, oh, they're mostly just fluff and blah, 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 blah. but I would be in one. Yeah, I'm sure you would be in one if they offered you, but we don't want you in. We don't need you in. Piss off. You know? All these people, like, this is, look, there's going to be people who are going to talk about gatekeeping. But when you've got nerds who, like, I remember when I was a kid, and I said this many times, I couldn't wear a freaking, do I have anything? I don't have anything here. Go figure. Oh, I got my jacket over here, my coat. I got my Deathstroke the Terminator shirt or overcoat here, right? Like, I couldn't have that. If my friends walked in and saw my toys up on the wall or something like that back in the, pre-90s and whatnot, before Iron Man came out, even when Iron Man came out, I'd be like, what? What are you doing? What are you doing? They'd be freaked out. Like, it is what it is. There's a reason why this is sacred space to us. All these toys and whatnot, right? There's a reason why this stuff is sacred space to us, including, look at this. My friend, Jim Cornette. That's my friend. Ish. But anyway, right? All this stuff that I love. All of my little toys and whatnot, right? I love this stuff because I couldn't do this stuff when I was a kid. I couldn't have a Hammerhead. There were no Hammerhead toys, I don't think. I mean, like, they were Happy Meal toys at best, So anybody's going to complain, oh, you're just being a gatekeeper. You need to know your own lane. Because when I was a kid, we had to keep playing Dungeons and Dragons a secret. We had to keep a comic book collection a secret. And now all of a sudden it's popular because of movies. Y'all can have the movies and you can do whatever you want with the movies. I'm happy to watch what I want to watch. But I have my stacks of comics. That's 6 boxes right there. Excuse me. That's 9 boxes right there. 9 boxes of my comics. And I can't fit them all. I need more. And I'm happy. I'm happy with it. Like Rich says down here, I'm happy to be a gatekeeper. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Because this was sacred space to us. We couldn't wear a comic book t-shirt to school. And most of the time, you couldn't find a comic book t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? Now you got places, they're built on comic book t-shirts. So it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? J-Man, you know what pisses me off is you didn't tell me, you rat bastard. You had a D&D campaign last night and didn't invite me? That's what I think of you. My wife still teases me, even after the movies, for having comics. She tease you all you want. My wife used to tease me, my first wife, not this one. This one's good. My first wife, my ex-wife, she used to tease me for having the little Warhammer figures and painting them and whatnot. But I paid, I think, $400 for one set, and then I sold them for $12.50 on eBay. $12.50, and that was before 2000. She didn't make fun of them anymore. She's like, you should go and buy more and do more and things like that. I was like, yeah. So you know what? When you got all that stuff, you be what it is. No excuses, J-Man. I'm pissed at you. J-Man stands for Jerk Man until I get invited to a D&D game. Said what I said. Who else? Lucky to be a dork and psycho. So free and open nerd. Somebody says something above. We would have got a first-class butt kicking for our nervousness. I wasn't necessarily worried about that because I was always a big guy. But yeah, I would have been ostracized for sure. The CGI in Moon Knight looks better than She-Hulk. Yeah, agreed. Santino, would love to see you making AEW discussion videos. Oh, that would take so much time. And I don't know if people would actually want to show up for it. I don't know. Maybe one of these days. In 8th grade, about 2010-ish, this hot chick made fun of my cool Marvel shirt that showed off a few characters. Now I always see her posting stuff about Marvel. Santino Productions, sometimes. I want you to think about this right now. That hot chick, you're the one who got away. We always talk about the one that got away. You're the one who she let get away. Turns out you were a catch. You were ahead of your times. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm here. I'm here for the criticism. Would love to play in one of your face rip games and playing since 1989. I have a face rip game and a 10 episode, so a one shot and a 10 episode, technically 12, but 2 of them are beginnings. Anyways, 10 of them that I still haven't edited or put music together for and posted. And they're a continuation of what I've already put out. So I've got writers and artists who currently work for Marvel and DC who want to be in some of the games, and I feel like I'm letting a lot of people down. But honestly, as much as I love to do that stuff, guys, I'm sorry, I love you all, but I'm too busy making money. This channel doesn't really make a lot of money for me. It really doesn't. And it's made less after COVID than before. Sorry. I even shut down my Patreon. I let people go off of my Patreon because, what do you call it? Kelly Thompson, love her to death. She was on my Patreon. She's one of the people I had to kick off the Patreon just because they needed to shut it down. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. I don't make a lot of money off of YouTube. There are people better than me. Do it. Nerd Without Fear, right? Blurred Without Fear. What do you call it? He's good. There's a bunch of people who are good. There's a bunch of people who are better than me. I'm just here to give a couple opinions on whatever, and I do too much stuff. But anyway, played Facebook for years. I gotta do something with Facebook one of these days. But we'll get there. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna bounce. I got things I gotta do. I got money to make. I love you guys, but I'm trying to save up to buy a big physical business and then to buy a bigger house. So love and peace. I'll catch you guys all later. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.